Several years ago, I had a person ask me a simple little question as I was listening to them. It says, "Can you tell me what grace means to you?" And before I could really answer, he then said, "Well, grace is not just a few words that a person could say before a meal, nor should it be something that, it's not even a blue-eyed blonde." And it got me to thinking. People with names with a Christian attribute. That makes it interesting. You take a look at a person that has a name like that, like Grace, or even Faith, and you think about them. Just think about them and do they live up to their name? With a name like Frank, that's easy. Being open and honest, and I try to live up to that. Somebody comes up to me and says, "Can I be frank with you?" And I said, "No, you can be yourself. I'll be frank." Of course, I don't tell them that, or at least I try not to. But it gets to be a little interesting. And then it even got me thinking a little bit more. How nice it would be if people could really live up to their names. That's when I started coming up with this little story that I call The Farmer's Daughters. You see, there was a farmer who really loved his land. I mean, he was a dedicated farmer, somewhat like Jim, and just as dedicated as can be. And what happened? Well, he got married, and he loved his wife. Some people wondered whether he loved the land more than his wife, but that's not really the point of this story. And for 10 long years, they never had a child. It got him to feeling a little sad about that. And his wife didn't feel much better about that because she could tell from him, this is not right. And finally, there was that one day in which she went and said, "I'm going to have a child." Oh, that made him feel really good. I mean, you're talking about top of the world good. And when that day came and he was told, "You have a little girl," he went to see his wife, and there she was, and there was his daughter. And he says, "The Lord has been gracious to us. Let's name her Grace." His wife looks at him with a big smile on her face. "Yeah, that's right. Let's call her Grace." 5 years later, they would have another daughter. And they named her Faith. And for 10 long years, it was just those two children, just those two little girls. Then a day came in which he was told, "You're going to have another little baby." Oh, this is great. But before the due date even came close, his wife had a terrible accident. She fell in the barn and hurt herself really bad. They got the doctor there, and happens to be that he's in one room while she's in another. Doctor's working with her, and he's praying on, how hard he is praying for the life of the unborn child and for the life of his wife. Well, it happens to be, the next thing you know, he hears a little slap and a little cry. And he's thinking, this is way too early. This is not right. Lord, what is going on? And the doctor comes out and says, "You can see your wife and your little girl. Another daughter. All right." He went in, talked with his wife, and he says, everything's going to be all right. She says, no, it's not. Oh, the girl our daughter be fine, don't worry. It says, no, it's not about her. It says, well, I got hope that everything will be all right. Hope, yeah, she says, that's a good name for her. And she closed her eyes and passed away. Well, you take a look. Grace grew up to be tall and strong, had her father's attributes, not just some of his physical features, but really grew up tall and strong, and I mean strong. She was probably even stronger than some of the guys, in town or in the fields nearby, but he don't want to tell them that. They were probably not too confident about how strong she was, but she helped her dad out in the field, and she could do anything that almost any guy could do. She took after her father. Then one day, there was a knock on the door. The farmer boy from nearby, about a mile down the road, came knocking on the door. Says, sir, I come to you to ask you for your daughter's hand in marriage. That made him feel proud. He's a good man. And so he gave his blessings upon them. Then there was also Faith. She grew up tall and strong as well, but not as strong as her sister. Oh, not even close to that. But she had her mother's features about her. And when it comes towards faith, yes, she really had a lot of strong faith. And one day, a knock on the door, and here's one of the town's boys, the miller's son. He comes knocking on the door. He says, sir, I come to you asking for your daughter's hand in marriage. Oh, he knew he was a good boy. Every time he brought the grain in, he was always there helping. He's a good man. He gave him his blessing. And they were married. But then there was also hope. Now remember, there is about 15 years difference between Grace and Hope. But Grace grew up. I can't say she grew up tall and strong, because that's not really the case. She was small to begin with, and she never grew to be over 5 foot tall. And strong, well, not really all that strong. She was not weak, but I wouldn't call her strong. But if anything was strong about her, it was her faith. She had that ability to take a look and say, I know what's going on. I know what we need to do. And she looked fondly towards the future and says, let's roll up our sleeves and take action. Now Grace, she and her husband had a little farm that was next to his, and had, the 4 boys and 3 girls. Nice little family. And the 2 oldest boys, they were more than happy to help their grandpa on the farm. They knew exactly what they needed to do. Faith, she lived in town. She also taught Sunday school and had 2 boys and 1 girl. Then there was Hope. Hope, she encouraged her husband to become a preacher, and they moved out of state. But she would write every day to her dad. Oh, she would write some of the best letters he ever read. Letters that would say what's going on in the town. What's happening with the church. News about, Dad, you're going to be a grandpa again. And she had 2 girls and a boy. And they grew up strong in the Lord as well. Then, one day, he started feeling like, I don't feel like getting out in the field anymore. I'm just getting old. Getting out there is just too hard for me. But he had 2 grandsons who would help out. He'd be sitting in his house, reading his Bible. And he read a passage that said that a man is blessed whose quiver is filled with them. And he thought, my quiver only held 3 arrows. But oh, how blessed I have been. How blessed I really have been. And he thought about Grace. Her father's attributes, her father's features about her. And he thought about how Grace needs to have our father's features about us as well. For Grace comes from the Father. And it helps us to grow. It has that attributes that says there's joy, there's delight, there's charm. It's that kindness that comes from God to man and from man to other men. That attribute that says, I want to share grace with you. I'm not going to harbor anything against you. I will show you grace. I will show you kindness. And when it comes towards faith, not just believe. It's more than believe. It's closer to saying faith is belief in action. It's faith that says, I'm going to do this. Her faith says, I'm going to teach other children, as well as my own children, all about the Lord. Faith has that firm conviction that says, this needs to be done. And that's where faith lies. And that she saw that. And he saw that in her. He saw that. And says, it really takes after the mother's features. Not just her features as well. But also as we take a look at the church itself. Our faith grows from the church. What we're taught. How we live. Then he took a look at Hope. Little Hope. She moved away from town and yet still wrote, still encouraged him, still helped him out. And even best of all, when Hope returned to town and says, my husband has been offered the position here in town since his father took ill. And we're going to be here. And his hope relived. His hope grew. His hope was there, and he says, yes, here is my hope. How should we take a look at the farmer's daughters? How should we really look at that? Why don't we look at faith and hope and grace as what they really are, not just who they really are? Grace lives in us so we can share grace with others. The kindness, the hospitality, the gracefulness. when it comes towards things like our faith, we need to share that as well. Faith needs to be shared as much as grace needs to be shared. And for hope, share hope as well. He may have given hope to another man, and they may have moved away from town, but they came back. And his hope was always there. Always there. Especially in the letters that he read. And our faith and our hope is always there. In God's letter to us. God's letter, the Bible. We need to take a look at what that all has to say. What it means to us today. And what does it mean for you today? If at this time you want to be able to say, I want to have that grace. I want to have the faith. I want to have the hope. Now is the time to come forward. And if you're taking a look and saying, I had a hard time with that. I really had a hard time trying to get that into my life. We can offer prayers for you and help you along the way. Just let us know what it may be. As we rise to sing our hymn of invitation. Ralph?